Hello everyone, welcome to Amigos IAS. I'm Adnan. The elections to the 18th Lok Sabha have recently concluded, and now we have got a coalition government in place. In the last decade, we have seen BJP emerging as the party which has crossed 272, and it was enough to form the government. But now they have fallen short. They got almost around 240 seats. That means now they have to depend on other political parties in their coalition to run the government smoothly. So the photo, as you can see behind, it was at the Prime Minister's residence, and there all the NDA political party, the coalition NDA is there, right? So all the coalition partners have come there, and they have given the letters of support. That means now the Prime Minister can stake claim to form the government because the numbers have now stacked up. So in this backdrop, let's try to understand the dynamics of coalition government by taking a previous year question from Political Science and International Relations optional. So that is the question here. But before I go into this, there is a small announcement here. On June 8th, 9th and 10th, we are having workshops for optionals political science, anthropology and sociology. So please do attend these workshops and you can get all your doubts and questions clarified. So let me go to the question first here. 2013, as you can see there, the question, I have taken the exact, from the PDF of the previous year questions so that you will get the idea of how questions are framed in the optionals. So obviously 8 questions are there. You have to write 5 questions out of those. And in this IGP, Indian Government and Politics, which is paper B of first paper, there we got this question in 7th C. Analyze the position of the Prime Minister of India in a coalition regime. 15-mark question is there, which means at least 200 words you need to write here. Just a second. That means at least 200 words. 200 to 250 words you can write. Space is provided, of course. So here the key directive is what here? They're asking you to analyze the position of the Prime Minister in a coalition regime or the government. In a coalition government, because now in the past, of course, when the majority is there, there is only one single party, even though there are coalition partners, but because you have the numbers, you have that kind of power to take your own decisions. The coalition dynamics will not be very active when one single party has the sufficient majority, which is like magic figure, what we call. But now in a proper coalition governments, like what we have seen in the past in India, especially when Janta government has come, then we had United Front governments were there, Janta Dal governments were there, and last time, in 1989 till 2014, we have seen several coalition governments in India. Now again, the question is not asking us about the dynamics of coalitions. That means what is the positives and negatives of coalition governments. The question is not asking us. So we don't have to go into those aspects in the question. The key focus area is how the Prime Minister's role or his position is there in a coalition government means your answer should be focusing on the role of Prime Minister. The role of Prime Minister, how he or she has to balance the coalition dynamics. Generally what happens, parties with different ideologies will be a part of the coalition. So here the Prime Minister has 2 things. One is he has to make sure the governance is intact. Second thing is the demands of the coalition partners also have to be balanced. If not, what happens? The government may collapse. So your answer should be focusing on all those key words. Let's say balancing, let's say the negotiations, accommodation, pluralism. Okay, these are the key words which you have to use in our answer. And how you differentiate this answer from your general studies answer is, you need to make sure that mostly in the political science optional, what happens is you will write the answers in paragraph format because the flow of the answer should be intact. in some areas, rare cases, you do use certain flowcharts and certain diagrams, or we can say some boxes we'll be using. Let's say Aristotle's classification of governments or constitutions, or Plato's concept of justice. There are some areas you do use that. Sometimes in some questions, some points are permitted. But generally in this type of questions, better to go with the paragraph format. And in paragraphs, you have to always make sure that the entire flow of the question should be maintained from the introduction to the conclusion. Don't try to make it jumbled, and highlight the keywords, understand the demand of the question, and then go with the flow and highlight the keywords. If possible, if you find any quotes of any thinkers, even though it is IGP, we can still bring some thinkers or some scholars. If you can, just write one of their quotes and use proper PSIR words, because this is not a general studies question. Here you can have the liberty of using some technical words as well. Like coalition governments means they are a form of consociational democracy, because in consociational democracies there is some kind of democratic power sharing between different social groups. Here of course they're not particularly social groups, they are different political parties with different ideologies, but still you can use the word consociational democracy. And if possible, if you want to use any thinkers or scholars quote, that is also preferred. But make sure you address all the dynamics of coalition government where Prime Minister's role becomes very important. So I hope you understood the demand of the question. So let me show you the answer, how I have written the answer for this. First things first. Here introduction should always be based on what are basically coalition governments. That is how you start your answer. So coalition regime is a government where what happens, power sharing happens between different political parties, and here the executive is more important because that is the branch which is actually implementing the policies. It is a form of consociational democracy. As you can see, another important political science word has come. The perspective matters a lot when you answer a general studies question and an optional question. So it's a form of consociational democracy. Most democracies are governed by coalitions these days, okay, comprising multiple political parties with conflicting policy positions. The question has asked, analyze the role of PM. So first you have mentioned what is coalition government, and these days lot of coalition governments are there in different countries. And why we have to discuss the question of PM is because there are multiple political parties with different policy positions. Now here the role of PM becomes very important. So you're mentioning the same point here. The Prime Minister plays a vital role in navigating and harmonizing the varied interests and requirements of numerous political partners or coalition partners. Then I have taken a quote of Rajni Kothari when he was talking about the Congress system. Okay, after the independence, he was talking about the Congress system having lot of pluralism, accommodation and bargaining between various fragments. That means in Congress system, even though there were people having different ideological positions, there was pluralism. That means there is diverse belief systems were there whose interests have been accommodated, and there was certain bargaining as well. Which means in this question, you are starting your answer with defining what is the meaning of the word coalition governments, and then the role of PM, why it becomes important. Then you gave one scholar's quote as well. That makes a good flow here. And then you can start your answer by discussing various dynamics of coalition governments where PM has to play a very adept role. So use the keywords always here. So Prime Minister is the primary negotiator tasked with reconciling conflicting interests and ideologies among different partners. So what he has to do then? He has to do skillful bargaining and mediation. He has to bring consensus on policy matters. Now Prime Minister Modi, he has to bring consensus on different matters. Okay, in the past Nitish Kumar was serving as railway minister. Of course, as of now we don't know what are the portfolios which have been divided between these coalition partners. What if there are some important portfolios the other coalition partners are seeking? There, the Prime Minister has to make sure there is some kind of consensus on policy matters. Suddenly now, till now they were having the defense or railway ministry. If it is given to somebody else, now there should be consensus on how we have to go ahead with the previous policy and how we have to have future policy also. There should be some agreement or consensus on that. So you're making what here? Underlining the words consensus on policy matters and ensure the cohesion of the coalition government. And then the next one, make sure the word limit also has to be there. Of course, I have given some extra words. If the same answer I would write in the answer copy, it would be having somewhat lesser sentences, okay, or lesser words. Unlike single party majority government, decision making becomes pluralistic, okay, and here negotiation of collective action the prime minister has to do. Okay, because it's 285 words, you can just skip this line because already in the previous paragraph you have addressed that. Then you can use this word here, okay, balancing because what, there is one governance which the prime minister has to handle. Next one is the demands of the coalition partners. That means the key word here is what, balancing act the PM has to do. Position of PM, role of PM, balancing act, forging consensus, and you can see here mediator and conciliator. Sometimes there could not be having common ground between things, so he has to bring common ground also by mediating and by conciliation. He should try to make sure there is a sense of unity among all the partners, because as you can see the picture also, there are so many coalition partners are there. So PM has to make sure that there is some kind of consensus among these many partners. Okay, they have different ideas also. Okay, he should find solutions that work for everyone in the coalition. Very tough role. Okay, as a representative of India, not only the internal domestic politics of India, where he has to perform the balancing acts, bringing consensus, okay, balancing act between the governance and the demands of the coalition partners, and then we have the aspect of bringing some kind of unity of ideas, because there are partners of different ideologies. Having common ground on important critical matters is there. There the prime minister has to negotiate again. And then when it comes to global stage, last time we have seen when Manmohan Singh could not attend Sri Lanka because their partner in Tamil Nadu government, they were not happy with Sri Lankan government. So Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting was skipped by the Prime Minister. So India's policy with respect to Sri Lanka is also dependent on with whom they are allying in the Tamil Nadu guys. Okay, fine. So that is the point here. Now, as a representative of India on the global stage, Prime Minister has to balance domestic coalition considerations along with India's international commitments as well. Both has to be balanced here. That means not only in domestic area but in international sphere also. That means you have addressed all the important keywords, as you can see from the beginning of the answer. The type of democracy, what it is, coalition government definition includes the political science concept here. A political thinker or a scholar is there here, and then you entered into the answer by saying the role of prime minister and with keywords highlighted here guys. Okay, primary negotiator, skillful bargaining, bringing consensus, then balancing act, mediator, conciliator, and here common ground. Here balancing international commitments along with domestic considerations. All these are the prime minister's role in coalition governments, where he has to make sure he should balance the governance as well as the coalition partners. Conclusion has to be very optimistic in the end, and you can say that this running of coalition governments require a lot of leadership capabilities, having political acumen. That is what matters in the end. That means we have seen in the past some coalition governments have fallen hardly serving 2 years, hardly serving less than 1.5 years also. That means to manage a coalition you require what? Some political acumen, leadership capabilities you require. Okay, and see here the same points are mentioned here. The position of PM in coalition regime embodies the integrated interplay between power, negotiation and governance. All this have to be managed. That means this effectiveness depends on what? Leadership capabilities, political acumen or astuteness, and skill in managing the intricate dynamics of a multi-party coalition. That means in the conclusion, if you can see, you are telling that in a coalition regime, the position of prime minister is dependent on their capabilities, their political acumen, and how skillfully they navigate the dynamics of the coalition regime. So this is the way you can write any answer of IGP in political science optional. The same will change, of course, when you write the answer in the general studies. You will not write exactly in this way. You can write in different point-wise format. You can use flowchart, schematic diagrams. You can use the examples of different coalition regimes in detail by giving some small examples. That is a different way of writing the answer in general studies. So more on this we can discuss in tomorrow's class. Morning at 10 a.m. you can come to Amigos IAS. We'll have a discussion on PSIR optional, and I'll be discussing the entire optional strategy, and I'll navigate to syllabus as well. And if you have any questions, you can ask me. So see you tomorrow. Thank you.